But we are back.
What's up?
On the Jay and Kaskian podcast with
Danii?
Yeah.
Danii.
Yeah.
Danii.
What's up, Danii?
Hello.
Our spiritually psychic-y friend.
Yeah.
Ooh, throwing out the names.
Well,
really.
yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
spend this entire podcast avoiding the most interesting topic we have. So I wanted to start because I remember in our last conversation, you mentioned something like with the abilities like honing in or something, like you could hear things.
Yeah.
Some people can see things, other people can like feel things. I didn't mention it, but I had a friend, a really wonderful friend who started helping me understand like those are different like special abilities, I guess, whatever you want to call them. But I actually have one, which is really strange and makes me look totally crazy.
It's not.
Well, so I'll be like walking around or something, and this happened when we were exploring the abandoned insane asylum, on other adventures of mine. It's like this thing happens. I'm in a group. We're all like going through. We're all like kind of here, and then I hear something like clear as fucking day, and I'm like, what? And everyone's like,
Clairaudience.
There's nothing there.
Yeah.
Like nothing happened. I'm like, okay. And over the years, I've developed it so quickly that like I'll hear something and then I'll look around, and if nobody hears it, I'll be
Yeah.
like, made it up.
Yep.
And I'll just like continue through. But my friend told me that that's like an actual thing, and she thought that I had it.
Yeah, it's called
and I was
clairaudience.
like, oh shit, because I remember walking around in the Roman Colosseum, and my family has pictures of like 11-year-old Grant where I just like walked into the Colosseum, like the whole thing's in front of me, and I just like stopped. I was just like staring.
Yeah.
And I remembered after I was told about the audio clearance, whatever.
Clairaudience.
That one.
Yeah.
I went back into that memory, and I remember I could hear like
Things.
crowds and like people screaming and
Yeah.
all this like crazy shit. And like my family like shook my shoulder, and I was like, oh, I'm crazy. I don't
And then
know.
they
I have a
just call
vivid
us
imagination.
I was just going to say, they call us imaginative. But clairaudience really is just, the definition is clear hearing. And
I mean,
yeah.
when you think about time, it kind of makes sense, because time, as we've discussed many times, is like basically like a line, and we just happen to cross it here, so we only perceive it
Yep, we
within
assume
these two
that's all.
points, and that's all the time that's ever been. But if time doesn't function in the way that we perceive it to,
not linear,
then walking
yeah.
into some place that has that sort of something, type like you just kind of
You can immerse yourself in
Yeah.
the energetic imprints of what was there.
you
Absolutely.
lose yourself into what used to be, and I thought that was
Yeah.
a really neat thing. And I was wondering if you could specify, hone in on
Yeah.
like what exactly you think your
Sure.
things are. And don't worry, no one thinks like you're like trying to hype yourself up or anything.
there's
just
always
go
that,
for
right?
it. Be yourself. You're
Yeah.
okay. You're in safe space.
Safe space. So I would say, over the course of like my life, different abilities have kind of taken the forefront of how I operate. But if I had to pick, it's rough because like it does sound hype now, and you totally set me up for that.
Sorry. No,
It's okay.
like you're chill. You came on the podcast because we want to know these things about you.
All right, I
you're
got
not
it.
you're not like walking around
Yeah.
being like, look at me, I'm
Look at
this
me
thing.
go.
It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we're
Yeah.
prying for it.
Yeah.
So I do the clairaudience thing, and there's all of these abilities, right? They are either internal or external, or a mix of both, right? And it can be any one of those. I feel like people kind of get lost in that too. So I have had clairaudience. Oh, how would you plural?
Clairaudient.
Yeah.
You were right.
Clairaudient experiences like yours. I used to get them a lot as a kid. I could tell you a bunch of stories. It would usually just start with somebody talking from behind me. It was typically a woman. I grew to be really afraid of her, and I actually identified her later. How I connected it was the queen from Snow White.
Okay.
Not the witch, not when she was all ugly, but like the queen.
Yeah.
But because her energy was like very icy, and back then, you know, you associate what you know. So that's what I used to call her. So my parents were like convinced that I was afraid of Snow White, and I was like, no, and I would try to explain like I'm not scared of Snow White, but she used to call my name and say things behind me. And I've had a lot of other very concrete external experiences over the course of my life. But you can also have clairaudience, which is kind of what I referenced last time, where you have it like internally, and that is more so how mine translates. And when I first opened myself up back to everything after having shut it down, all of those, your brain is only set up to process what you accept as real and true. So for a period of time, I had all of those thoughts, those foreign thoughts I talked about, right? That's what I call them. And they sounded like my internal monologue talking, except the thought was very foreign. Like, why would I think that? Why would I say that to myself? And it kind of came out of nowhere. And as I accepted those thoughts and thought about them more, and dialed in, I guess, to the frequency that I was picking up, the voices started to change from my voice, which is all my brain could process initially, to me expanding my consciousness to be like, okay, those aren't me, those aren't my thoughts, to then them being other voices. So the voices will pop in different tones than my own voice. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's one. Clairvoyance. I definitely is that movie reel that I was talking about.
Okay.
A lot of people think that they will see an entity or a ghost or whatever, like tangibly right in front of them. That's happened to me for all that I do, maybe 4 times in my entire life. And having much to do with one particular place I lived. It was that less than it was, more than it was me. And that's where you experience that internal video and all these images and like physical, you see the physical manifestations in your mind's eye. And then clairsentience, which is where like I'm picking up what you're feeling, which is what you were worried about like the first time, like, oh, maybe you'll feel me. And a lot of people say like empathic. It's a little bit different, but
yeah, it's similar to like, I feel like I'm more on the empathic side because when I meet people, it's almost like I can like really put myself and look through their eyes almost. It's like I can, like just by looking at their face, I can feel
what they're feeling
and their expressions. And like, it's very overwhelming because that's partly why I think that I'm more of an introverted person, because it's very, very overwhelming for me to be around people often, or large groups of people, especially because I get so much like
input.
I can see, these people over here are having a weird like disconnected problem, or this person is in a bad place, or like I can feel those things so like internally. And it's almost like I can just read people's faces incredibly well. Yeah,
but you're chalking it up to that because, like, similar to me, you're more analytical and logical.
That's the way you need to process it to make sense.
Yeah, but in actuality, like, you're scanning them. So you're scanning their energetic body versus their physical body, and then you're attaching it to the tangible form that you know is acceptable.
Yeah. It's a very weird experience sometimes because, like, I almost feel like I can be, like, I'm intimately connected to everyone that I'm having a conversation with.
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily like feel that. Yeah. But
and
it's odd. It's very odd.
It's part of, from the perspective of the empath, like it's a huge thing to put up boundaries. So like I walk around and I put up huge boundaries. I visualize them for me, for that reason, but also for you, because I'm a firm believer that it's not for me to crack into your feed if you didn't ask for that, right? And there was a period of time where I totally shut down. I was actually diagnosed with fibromyalgia. Yeah, that was what the doctor told me it was. Yeah. But then I went to see this alternative healer, which was a crazy experience. I ended up seeing him by such a weird chain of events, and he said, "You don't got no fibromyalgia, girl." He said, "You're just taking it all in, and you're such a logical person that your body is manifesting all of what you're taking from everybody else." And so, like you need to be permitted to kind of access that in people for you and for them.
Yeah. See, I don't really have full control over it. It's like the way that I control it is just stay away from people.
No, you have to learn how to do that.
No, I'm in a similar boat. And like within this situation that you're going through, it's like, if there's too much energy focused on like the sad or something like that, I physically have to remove myself from the area. Yeah. It's like I need to develop that ability where people can be in that space and I don't get drawn into it just by like being nearby and not focused on something. Because if I'm like playing a computer game and stuff's happening, it's like I don't even notice. My energy is committed to something. Yep. It's like it can't get in. But if I'm like low key just kind of vegging out, it's like I have to figure out how to get those boundaries up so I'm not just absorbing energy around me sort of stuff.
And I mean, it's a really huge double-edged sword, because where I can say that I'm like super productive in setting up those boundaries now, a lot of times people that want more from me, either because they intimately know me and know what I can do, or because before I used to operate that way, and I was either complete shutdown mode or completely open to people and taking in a lot, even that they could read, like, oh, I can talk to you about anything. Now those people perceive me to be a little bit more icy, and I feel that I typically am a less emotional person, simply because I process more from a perspective of like almost a computer, I guess, than like, it's not, I'm a sentient being separate from this ability, and I now am able to separate them, and people don't like that,
right?
Because it makes them uncomfortable, because they want you to buy in, I guess, to every emotion that they're having if they're expressing them to you in a way.
Right. Yeah. That's almost like I feel like when I have close connections to people, like when I'm close, like friends or romantic or whatever, like that's almost what like keeps me in this like kind of avoidant nature, is because I'm so like picking up on whatever. It's almost like it's not only emotions though. Like I've almost described it sometimes as like perspective. Yeah. Like I'm very, very good at understanding other people's perspective.
What about physical pain? Have you ever felt somebody else's physical pain?
Somebody else's physical pain?
Physical pain or emotional pain?
Physical.
No, I don't think I've experienced other people's physical pain.
Physical pain is no.
It's like I can be empathetic towards it, for sure, and it makes me feel really uncomfortable if people are in a lot of physical pain, and I want to help.
Emotional pain's a lot easier to feel. Like when the day your mom passed, like you were crying on the ground, and I sat down next to you, and it was a matter of seconds before I was just sobbing, like next to you, just being like, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God," because it just.
Yeah, it overtakes you. Well, and that is such a huge energetic wave of, you know, the biggest emotions. Yeah. So it'd be hard not to be swept up in that.
For sure. Well, I mean, it's crazy. It's like the you know, the number one divine feminine person in my life, my entire life dies, and it's just like it's crazy. It's a something that I did not expect to experience so quickly in my life, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, I can say that. But
grateful that you had the time you did with her.
Yeah, for sure. But what I was saying about like how I can read people, I don't know the best way that I can describe it, because it comes in emotional ways too in reading their face. Yeah. But it's also like I can almost see people's like patterns, like if they're locked in a like a consciousness box.
That is, though, that's clairsentience. That's empathic. I don't like the word empathic as much because I feel like it's a really broad spectrum term right now.
Yeah. If there's like somebody is presented with a situation and is having trouble or having a hard time, like I can almost approach that situation with them and see exactly why they're thinking the way that they're thinking, or how.
See, but that's an ability. So you guys are expressing like, okay, you've heard things, you feel things, you on some level feel things. And that's what I mean when I say everybody is born. This is the way that the human body and mind and soul is calibrated. We're supposed to be able to do these things.
Yeah. I think a big part of this whole thing, like I guess quantify them as psychic abilities. The reason why it's looked at by general society is like, is because it seems almost like you're giving yourself self-importance. Like, I can do this special thing, when it just hasn't like fully like ingrained itself in society that no, everybody, like no one's special because they're able to do this. It's the same thing as like some people are born like with a what's the word I'm looking for? Proficiency for athletics. Some people are born with proficiency in math.
I'm not sitting here claiming to be an emotional savant.
No. And I think I thought about this afterwards, after our last podcast, that there are probably so many people just like you who are super hyper turned on in certain ways, but they're not like permitted by society to share it. But society and like the soul, like big soul, big G God, needs like put all of those souls with those heightened abilities in our societies, because we need
effect.
them. Because each individual person is born with specific tools that they are able to use to build themselves up. But if they want something different in their experience, they have to take tools from other people because they weren't born with those ones. So it's like society needs to be able to turn towards the people who have these heightened abilities for giving tools, just like teachers, like Teal or something like that. Like everybody needs these tools when they get to the part. But if people like you aren't coming out and being like, I can do this, I don't know what to do with it, but if someone's feeling drawn towards me, I will do it.
Yeah,
I'll help.
totally. Well, and that's just it. So out of our last podcast last week, I've gotten a lot of like real cool messages, which has been awesome. But I also did meet up with several people just because it felt right to do that. That's not to say I'll meet up with. Yeah, it's totally cool.
That's really, I'm so excited that this, I won't get super cocky, but maybe the podcast had some influence in doing that and putting you out there a little bit more.
It's a platform, definitely.
That's really cool.
So you guys springboarded me into like a wider audience, and some people knew me and they were like, oh, that makes a lot of sense because you're weird as hell. And some people were like, I never knew this about you, but now, and some people I don't know at all. Like I was like, what? I don't even know who you are. But it's been really cool. But the point is, like, with each person that I sat with or talked to on any sort of level, I literally repeated what I said in the podcast, which is my whole goal in all of this is not to be something that somebody needs to look up to. I just want you to turn to me so that I can teach you how to turn into yourself. Yeah,
it's like passing the fire along. Like we all have like matchsticks, and each person that lights theirs, their sole goal is to be like, I gotta light other ones.
It's the Buddha quote: a single candle isn't diminished. The flame isn't diminished by spreading it to the next. Right. I want to light you all up.
For sure. That's awesome. That's super awesome. Yeah, no, that's you'd be surprised how many people are actually in the zone to receive these types of things and are actually curious.
It only benefits you, and it benefits those around you that also need benefiting. And I think that, like you said, a lot of people can, once they kind of open up their mind to accepting that there are people that can do these things, then the acceptance of, well, maybe I can do these things, and then the reflection of, well, I had A, B, and C experiences, but I dismissed them. Well, no, let's talk about those because they're valid, and those are, dreams. Dreams are a big one. I get people that come to me for dreams all the time. There are dreams that are just dreams, guys, and there are dreams that are like those dreams, and those are a very different feeling. I would say if you wake up and you forget what you dreamt, probably not as important, but have you ever had those dreams where they're so vivid? You remember every detail. You can recall it now.
I still have a dream from when I was a little kid that I remember that I had multiple times.
And those are meaningful. Those are not dreams, y'all. Those are visions, for lack of a better word.
The one that I remember is I was a little kid. I was with my dad, and I was at a playground, playing just on a random playground, and there were witches.
Yeah.
Like Wizard of Oz witches, like black hat, like running around chasing me. And I had to like run around the playground to try and stay away from them, and I was super scared.
But what if like those are your spirit guides?
Like, maybe. I hope not. I hope not.
Wait, this might mean that I have dinosaur spirit guides, because I remember like in my first house ever, I came into like the foyer in Dream World, and there's like a mud room that goes into the garage, and I run out there because I can hear T-Rex stomps.
Sure.
And I go out and I look into the garage, and it's like a 2 or 3 car garage, and the doors are up, and I see a bunch of velociraptors coming in, the big T-Rex feet, and so I like run inside and close the doors, but the doors aren't going to close in time, and I get back to the foyer, and I stop, and I'm like, wait, velociraptors don't live right now. And I turn around, and I like... And I wake up and I pinch myself. What does that mean?
I mean, so dreams are 3 things when they're those types of like kind of vision-esque dreams. They are either past life regressions. They are emotional things that you're tying to symbolisms and things that kind of are seemingly abstract, but when you kind of dive deep into what the meaning of like a dinosaur would be, would make sense. Or they are you traveling interdimensionally, astral travel, lucid dreaming.
It was a great dream.
Yeah.
Still remember
I
it.
am not a big fan of dinosaurs, so I would beg to differ. But
I'm only a fan of dinosaurs in like the Jurassic Park setting where you're running away from them
No, I
and
don't-
you're gonna get away. Like you're gonna be okay because
Not
you're the
everybody got
hero.
away there.
Yes, but I'm always the hero of my own
sure,
story. Like
sure.
that's how it works. I'd get away from the dinosaurs even if everybody
Whoa.
else is dead. Sorry.
You're the
I've
T-Rex
been-
now.
I've been training for this my whole life. I'm gonna run.
Yeah.
so I
Run,
mean,
Forrest, run.
maybe that's touching on your hero's complex.
My ability to leave
Oh.
everybody and not die.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm a hero.
Yeah, like it's a survival thing.
Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, and I've had each of those. Like I've definitely had. I have. As it pertains to my mental and emotional health, and on the negative end, because like I keep saying, we are all very human. I'm very flawed. I dream all the time of my teeth crumbling out, which is
That happens to me frequently.
It's about massive amounts of stress,
Probably like once or twice a year I have one of those.
stress and financial strain. That's what that dream means.
Yeah. I have that dream like probably once or twice
Yeah,
a year.
it's awful.
Where like you're just doing your thing and all of a sudden your
teeth are crumbling.
Your teeth just
Yeah.
start crumbling. They're in your mouth and you can feel it. Like,
Yeah.
like you have to spit them out.
Yeah, I hate it. You're like,
Like-
freaking me out because I
Like
get it all the
literally,
time.
like I've had many of those dreams in my life.
But that's
crazy.
literally what that dream means. It's a
Yeah.
huge amount of stress for whatever reason, and then financial strain. And so I always have to check myself when I have that dream because I
Yeah.
don't process stress emotionally. Like I'm a typically pretty happy person.
Yeah.
So I feel like my body and my subconscious processes stress for me. So then I'm always like, oh shit, like I'm stressed.
Yeah.
So that's one that would be an example of. I also dream of like I've had past life regression dreams, where I don't know. Do you guys know the difference between like soulmates and twin flames?
Kind of a little bit.
I think that Jordan and I are soulmates.
Yeah, totally. I
Yeah.
I
get
think
that.
that we came into this life, we're placed exactly perpendicular paths, and we're like
Purposeful for one another.
because our meeting was fucking ridiculous, and the fact that we became like best friends for the last 15 years or so. I was climbing the side of our middle school, and he was like doing a really cool like kickflip or something off a stair set, and I was like halfway up the side of the building, hanging on, being like, "You're really cool."
Yeah, like stepbrothers. Did we just become best friends?
And this was before middle school,
Yeah.
so it was like he had just moved to the area. We had no anticipation, and then from that point on, it was
But
like
soulmates
easy.
are like people misinterpret soulmates as like a romantic idea, and it's not.
Yeah.
Soulmates are anybody that are here to help serve your purpose and vice versa.
I feel like soul crew
Yeah.
is a better
Soul tribe, baby.
soul tribe,
Yeah.
soul crew.
Yeah.
Well, and,
Folks you were destined to run into.
and you usually run into them over multiple lives in some way.
yeah.
There's some connection, and it can be more or less depending on the life you're in and what you're here for. But it's they're kind of like your backup,
Yeah.
and they're always
And
around somehow.
If I'm correct, the twin flame thing are the people that like progress you or
So, I mean, like it just depends on like what you think of it, but the best definition that I've read is that paired with the idea that, all souls are equal parts feminine and masculine.
Yeah.
But you can look this up. It's an interesting kind of story and perspective that the human form in flesh does not have the capacity to house both of those pieces at one time.
yeah.
Wholly. So you typically incarnate as one or the other, and then who is your twin flame is the representation of that opposite energy, and they usually stay up in your spirit council to kind of push you through life. But
Yeah.
there are rare occasions, they say, where people incarnate with their twin flame. And
Okay, this is really fucking weird, and everybody's allowed to think that I'm a total fucking freak for saying this. But I blessedly, I had someone in college teach me through like connecting to my spirit guides or something like that, and I had managed to get like 2 names, and one of them is always there. He's my homie. I can call on him at like any time, and he's just always there. The other one, her name was Beth, and she was here for a really long time, but she left like a year and a half or more ago. And I have not had any contact with her since.
Yeah, I mean-
and she felt like a really, like, it was like my dude and then her. And she's just like disappeared. And I've had this like growing theory, like, what if somehow she
incarnated
and I'm supposed to meet her like way later in life?
I mean, totally possible. Or in reverse, when I was a kid, I had a really weird obsession with ancient Egypt. It makes a lot of sense now.
Fuck yeah, Egypt.
But yeah, one of my spirit guides was an Egyptian woman, and so I got like super obsessed with Egypt, and she was kind of around, and I couldn't tell you the last time I guess called on her, for not having a better way to put it. I have two now that are typically always around. But to take it back to the twin flame perspective, I had this dream once, and all I can tell you is that it felt like New Zealand region, because have you ever heard of the Maori? Okay, so I was that. This was, I don't know what time period, but way back. Like, I was totally Aboriginal.
Their tribes go back to some of the earliest dating shit. Yeah. The Australian and New Zealand tribes.
I have no way to date it, but it was basically, we were arranged marriage, me and this boy, and I was a girl in that life, and we were probably like 16-ish, and we also were like thrilled to be arranged in marriage, and we weren't allowed to like, do anything sassy. But in the dream, we snuck off, and we were going to go swimming in the ocean off to the side. And we were there and, getting undressed. Nothing sexual, just, that's what you did back then. Hey! Yeah. And he jumped in, and there was something in the water that caused him to go into anaphylactic shock. Maybe it was a sting or something. So basically, whatever stung him did so before I was able to get into the water. And I watched him in the dream, like essentially drowning. And he was screaming in another language. So it's weird that I can express that, I can translate it. But and he was screaming for me not to come in after him. And of course I did. And something, whatever it was, stung me on my legs. But it wasn't, my reaction wasn't like his. And I was able to drag him back to the shore because we weren't out far, and he died in my arms. Damn. And I was fucked up in real life for like a week, because I know this sounds bad. This sounds terrible. I have never felt the depth of love that I felt like I died to for like a week.
Yeah. Holy shit.
And I couldn't really, like, what? What is that?
I've had those dreams. We're
getting into like past life shit, because I have one after you.
This is what's really fucking weird is I'll have those dreams about people that I know, like that I have met even in passing, or like a friend or whatever. Just anybody where I'll have this like insanely deep love connection with them. Yeah. And it will fuck me up for a couple days, because I'll be like, what is this? I'll be like, why?
Yeah, but chances are you had a romantic connection in past lives.
Yeah, maybe. I have my dreams are always very romanticized, like.
Oh, you're a hopeless romantic.
Maybe, but they're very intense. Yeah. Very intense, and I've never been able to figure it out, because sometimes like random people will appear, and it's just like, what?
Why you?
Like, why this person? What the hell?
That is weird.
Never made sense to me.
Do you ever tell them?
No. No.
Maybe that's something you should try.
Okay, there has been a few times that I have told them, but not frequently.
Every time I have like a romanticized dream about like one of my friends that's a girl, I immediately tell them. I text them in the morning. I'm like, I totally had one of these dreams about you. What were you doing last night?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, there was actually one person, this girl, Madeline. I had never even met her before. Like, we had never met. We had just exchanged conversations online. Yeah. And she's like right on par with the spiritual, like everything. We just like hit it off with everything. And I had a crazy ass dream about her, like that was similar to that, except we were on a different planet. Like, we were on a different planet.
You're Pleiadians.
In some crazy huge like complex like mansion, beautiful house on a different planet somewhere, or a moon somewhere. And like, it was just like me and her hanging out in this place.
Yeah, but maybe you both astro traveled there.
Having really like intimate like conversations about the universe and stuff. Yeah. And I remember telling her about it immediately. I was like, what was that?
And what did she say?
It was insane.
I mean, did she dream
I don't
it too
remember.
in any way, shape, or form?
This was years ago.
Darn.
But she did relate to it on some level, so I don't know exactly.
Because, I mean, a lot of people are programmed to, like, forget, preconditioned to forget what they dream. But, I mean, I would say start keeping a dream journal, because that's a great way to start in all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your past life?
Whatever
you have.
This is kind of sad. I wasn't going to say it anymore.
What?
But, so I had this weird situation where I was watching a somewhat recent movie. It was like some sort of alien contact movie. I can't remember her name. Amy something, a little redhead actress. And alien arrives in like crazy thing, like ship, and they're like communicating to it best they can. And point of it being, she had a child and like lost the child, and the way it was portrayed in that movie felt so very like part of my experience, and I couldn't explain why. Like, it was great acting, but normally I can disassociate from stuff even if it's like great art. But for some reason, like the way that she lost her child,
like, your soul recognizes that feeling.
I can't breathe for a while because it was just this like crushing thing, and it's like, I don't have children.
Okay, but I'm sorry.
I should not be able to feel that way about that situation
if I can push anything out of this podcast or any other content or platforms in the future, if I can push anything, it is the reincarnation factor. If you don't start there with opening your mind up to that as not a possibility, it's a reality. I'm sorry. Like, I know what I know. You're not going to get very far.
I agree with you on, I don't know how the reincarnation stuff actually works or functions, but I really do feel like there's this like ringing of truth to it.
It's the only thing that makes sense. It's samsara.
Like, I can't, like, the understanding, like, I had a certain upbringing, I have a certain level of born intelligence, I have a certain moral compass created by all these other factors and all that stuff. All of that stuff aside, there are people who have better education, better everything than me, and ended up being, the only way I can really look at it is like less conscious, less aware, and more like an empty robot than me. And it's
the
like
tools you're working with.
There has to be some sort of, either the trauma I experienced allowed me to like perceive things differently, or my brain, but I really feel like some element encompasses all of that, and it has to do with reincarnation. Like, I've had enough lifetimes of suffering and joy and stuff that I can perceive things in a certain fashion.
So when I first...
so vague.
Well, life is vague and vivid, which is such a contradiction. When I first started with kind of reopening myself back up to everything. So the problem was that I had attracted, like I said, when I was probably in a lesser positive state myself, I had attracted some unwanted entities because you are a light bulb.
We're going to go into that after you're done talking about this.
Fabulous.
We got some chunks.
Yeah. So I had acquired a couple of attachments that weren't great. So every time I would open the door, so to speak, those two attachments would be there like, oh, we're still here. And it was terrible. So I was terrified of that. Well, when I went through my dark night of the soul, I thought I was dying from the fibromyalgia. And I was going to acupuncture and chiropractic care along with just the general stuff. And the acupuncturist that I was seeing said, I don't know what you believe in, but I happen to be wearing a short sleeve tattoo or a short sleeve shirt that day. And she was like, I've noticed your tattoos, so I'm wondering if you might be open to something less traditional in suggestion. And I was like, sure, what is it? And she's like, listen, I know this guy, he used to be a chiropractor. He left the practice and he's a healer now. And he identifies as Christian, but it's not anything he'll push on you. Would you be open to see him? And I was like, sure, totally, give me the information, because I take opportunities as they come. Mm-hmm. And so she did, and I called him, and he was like, nope, I'm booked. So then I went back to her the next week for my regular appointment, didn't think much of it, not meant to be. And she goes, no, you're going to take my appointment, because he travels, so he only comes for, periods of time. It's short. So I went to see him. I took my mom with me, which weirdly, she does not remember it. Mm-hmm. So bizarre. And I told you guys in the first podcast, I'm a super skeptical believer. So I believe that all of this exists, but I don't believe that you can do it just because you say, which I recognize as ironic because I'm sitting here telling you to believe me.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah.
And so I didn't tell him a damn thing about me. And there's no way he could have known anything. Mm-hmm. And man, it was some crazy stuff. And he started unpacking me. And he's like, nope, you don't have this. Do you do this? Do you do that? And then he said to me, which is my owl joke last time. He said, I met a guy who all he had been was an owl. And he's like, I'd never seen that before. And he said, I bring this up because I've also never seen one like you before. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? And he's like, well, you've lived like a lot of times, like a lot. And he's like, I mean, I guess apparently I was some Russian dictator that like beheaded people for kicks. And he's like, you've had to pay back a lot of bad karma for that because you were fucked. Yeah. And yeah, he's like, so, but I've come a long way from there, right? So like, I'm not going to decapitate either of you. And had a bunch of other lives from that. So he's like, you know, that's why your perception is a little bit more open. And I was still kind of like, yeah, guy, whatever. So he told me what to do to stop the physical issues that I was having. And of course, ever the scientist and skeptic, I went home and did all of these things like, yeah, right. And let me just tell you, obviously, because of who I am, I still consider the placebo effect. Yeah. Always.
For sure.
I went from literally not being able to function to hoeing a garden with a giant like hoe. Yeah. That's like 12 feet long in 3 days.
Wow.
And I've never looked back.
That's impressive.
I mean, it was a really crazy experience. And on the outside of it now.
Yeah.
And then from that, he's like, you know, things are going to fall into your lap and you got to take them as they come. So I did. And I started doing stuff with crystals, which I'm also was skeptical about because, like, what? I went to Milwaukee Public Museum. I found a piece of obsidian that, like, called my name. I took it home and I was inclined to put it under my pillow. I did that. And a week later, I was walking out of my house at 5 a.m. to go to work, and I saw a huge flash of light in front of me, huge, and I was convinced that the power lines had blown. So I sat in my car because I was worried that my partner and son were inside my house about to like blow up. Yeah. And I realized that there weren't any power lines like right there, and I sat there like searching for every logical explanation until I started looking for illogical explanations. And then it turns out that it was a Wednesday, so it was supposedly an angel light, that's what they call it, is the best thing I could find. And it was the Archangel Gabriel, I believe, is what I found. It's associated with the stone obsidian and Wednesdays. And I was like, what the hell? And then I learned this song. Someone sent me a song called Obsidian, who knew nothing about any of this, right? Yeah. So I ended up going down this huge path of all of these like really weird coincidences.
Wow.
And so now I like trust that all the time, and synchronicities are the jam because they're everywhere.
I think I need to do a little bit of reflection on synchronicities in my life.
Yeah, you do.
I think I need to do that because like I recognize them, but it's always hindsight. You know, like it's very hard for me in the moment to stay connected and grounded to like all of those little things that are happening.
Well, and even now I'm doing it in hindsight, but I'm like, okay, this has been a crazy, crazy journey that sounds like mental, right? And I recognize that, but how do you not? I didn't even know what obsidian was 3 weeks before any of that. Like, what the hell, you know? And then since then, that's been like a huge thing for me. So I still have that big piece, and I go and do Reiki for people. Reiki's the best title, and I'll always take that with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's
Weird.
super cool.
You said you had something after this. You said we're getting into the dark matter.
So I wanted to get your 2 cents on. So Jordan and I, back in the day, were really into ghost adventures.
Did you do the Ouija board?
Oh, we've done got quite a few stories.
Okay.
I wasn't present for the Ouija board.
No, you weren't. You came later
after.
that night.
I'm going to tell you all real quick. I feel responsible for this. Like, don't do it, guys.
Oh, the Ouija board stuff?
Yeah, I'm putting it out there for the whole audience.
I don't
touch them.
Yeah, my last experience with the Ouija board was pretty gnarly too. And if any of you are watching this and lived in Riverview from UWM, the dormitory, that place is haunted because of my crew. Not me, but the crew I rolled with. Anyways, we did some stuff in an abandoned insane asylum, which has now been torn down. But we had this repeated thing keep happening to us because we went probably like 6 or 7 times, but each time we went, one of us got marked.
Yeah, I'm already uncomfortable with this.
The marking was 3 claws. First, it started on our legs. First night, you had one. You had that marking on one of your legs. Next time, you had like 2. A time after that, I had one on my leg, and then after a while, it was like I had. Or second to last time we went, we came back, and I had the 3 claw marks going down my entire back.
Yeah.
So like not even like able to like reach like from the top of my back all the way down to the base.
Are you in contact with everybody that was present during that period of time?
I mean, I could be.
But are you?
Not really.
Like you know that nobody's like dying, right?
Yeah, everybody's all right.
Alive.
Yeah.
So
it seemed like it focused on Jordan and I every time we
What is your question, firstly?
I wanted to get what your idea of the markings was and what was happening, and then I've got like another story about a different occurrence. So
Sure.
give me your 2 cents on the mocking of the Trinity, as it's called.
Yes,
in
okay, so
ghost
good. I'm glad
stuff.
you said that because I was already going to go into it. Okay, so number one, this is coming from a place of, sometimes I say things and it's my opinion of something, right? And I'm being like scholarly and telling you of my experience, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes I'm like coming from up here, which I would say is not me, like, so to speak. In this case, I would be calling on the not me part. And I always know because I get like really flush inside and I'm like really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I would say that you guys probably dicked around with an energy that was not very nice. I would not say that it was demonic because of the things that transpire after somebody makes contact with a force like that. But I would say it was something that was intentionally trying to give that impression for fear and feeding. So if you get your hands on something, let me be clear. This is what I think of. There are energies that are not good, but they're not bad. They just are what they are. I think we talked about this a little bit. Like an alligator is what it is. It doesn't mean to
the
bite
alligator
you.
isn't evil. It's
Yes,
just an alligator.
it's just its nature. There are energies and entities out there that it is their nature, and we deem that bad because of our reality and our perception, but they're not trying to be. Then there are demons, right? And I don't know if I define demons the way like in the biblical sense, but certainly just for the point of reference.
I think demons have to exist simply because I believe that beings of like
light.
Yeah, proper spirituality and stuff, they exist.
It's
like
the yin-yang, the
I have been
balance.
helped by them
Yep,
before. So
me
there
too.
are definitely the reverse of that in order for
Absolutely.
this universe to maintain balance.
So with that said, I would say probably either you guys were messing around with something that was human at one point and was very low in vibration for the fact that it was stuck there, right, and able to be called upon, and then was purposely trying to instill fear in you from that perspective, or you hit one of the ones that aren't bad, aren't good. But I definitely wouldn't say that you hit a demon because those don't go away.
Yeah. Ours seem to have left us alone. So either
it was just only while we were in there fucking with it.
Like those are very intentional in that you are the vessel with which they can set foot in like the physical realm, and they don't let that go. They're going to feed on you until you're done for.
So in Riverview, there was a different thing that happened. It was invited through by some people who were not being responsible. It all stemmed from I have a wonderful, wonderful friend who's very much like you.
Sure.
He's just this like spiritual nexus.
Okay.
And he always, in a very responsible way, would like do the Ouija board for people and like do all the right things and keep it very contained. And we got some really cool shit, like names of people who were doing it, like their family member's middle name that none of us knew. Like they had to like ask their parent, and they were like, "Holy shit, how the fuck did we get that middle name of my great grandparent?"
I totally can tell you lots of those stories.
Well, he wasn't there when this portal was opened and not closed. And the thing that came through eventually told its name, and it's a named one from Bible stuff, and it's definitely not something. And one of my experiences with audio, whatever,
EVP.
It was with me and Anthony, who's a spiritual one, and then my roommate Eric, who was like a math major. He was only along for the ride to mock us.
Sure.
I
love those.
It was a big group of us at this point because weird shit had been happening all over the 4th floor. So we were all like congregated together, being like, "This is fucking weird." There's like 16 of us, and we're all freaked out.
Yeah.
And a bunch of them went downstairs to like go get food or something, and it was just me, Eric, and Anthony. And like we're sitting there, the room suddenly like gets cold. You can like feel it get cold. And we're like looking around, and then from everywhere, nowhere, you just hear this.
Yeah.
And like things on the shelves are starting to like shake and like fall off. And Anthony and I are just like, and Eric stands up and goes, "What the fuck?" He's like freaking out, like trying to like run
Get
out or
away.
something. And Anthony jumps up and he's like holy watering the shit and like blessing the place and like forming like
Well, good
seals
for
and
him.
shit. And it was fucking bonkers. I wanted to get your opinion on that experience. That was very different than the little marks we got. I had something so tangible that I watched like shit just like fall off because desks were shaking from this.
I would say probably that is more aligned with an experience that we could say was probably touching on that demonic end of things. And I will say this, and I'm glad that you brought that up because I was trying to figure out how to intro into this thought anyways, which is that thank God for Anthony. So people,
he is awesome. Anthony, if you watch this, I love you so much.
Yeah.
I don't know you, but I love you now.
He watches all of our stuff.
He's a great dude.
With that said, the best way, so I have a cousin, and she's terrified of everything that is anything of this. And my explanation to her was this: if you have fear in that capacity that is kind of unknowing, then you should be fearful. But as it pertains to like an Anthony or myself at this point in my journey, I don't fear demons even in proximity to me, simply because I'm going to bring it down to science. Are you ready?
Okay.
If you're standing in a dark room, pitch black, and you're alone.
Yeah.
And you turn on a light, the black pitch darkness can never overtake that light. It's scientifically impossible. Shadows may be casted in the corners around you, but that darkness can never overtake that light.
As long as that light is
on.
Right.
Yeah.
We are the light.
Yeah.
And so while I'm shining, shadows may be casted in proximity to me all the time, but they can never touch me.
Yeah.
I know that as a truth. So I can stand in a room with a demon and be largely unaffected. The people that get possessed are overly faithful and overly fearful. It's one and the same.
You know, that like fits perfectly in line because I was watching, they used to do this show way back when where like kids would be having like crazy psychic experience.
Kids. I watched it with Chip.
And the new season that came out,
all of them grown up.
All of them grown up, helping new kids and everything. The number one thing that they tell people is, you know, make that light shield around yourself, like fucking glow.
They want
and
you
nothing
to think
can touch you.
Anything lower vibrational, anything demonic wants you to think that they're more powerful than you are, and it is bullshit.
It's a lie.
It is a lie. If you are really solid in your core light, and I know that sounds so cheesy, but it's the truth. It just is. I was scared for a long time, and I let that fear overtake me, and so I operated from a place of fear at my core, and so then they were able to feed from that fear. And now that that's not there, I can stand in the room next to the devil himself and, well, I'm a child of God.
I don't think I could handle the devil himself. I think I'd like be looking at all of his hoofy glory and I'd be like, so
well,
yeah, how about that, Satan?
Then I'm gonna recommend that you probably don't step into the room with him.
You know, I'm not gonna
well,
go
this
hang
is
out
kind of
with him.
this is kind of a reflection of Aubrey Marcus actually did a podcast with Duncan Trussell a really long time ago.
The Midnight Gospel. Watch it if you haven't.
Duncan Trussell.
I've watched
Yeah.
Oh, I've watched that like
Not
3
you
times
guys, I'm
through. I
talking to the
fucking
peeps
love
out
that
there.
shit.
Yeah, his Aubrey Marcus did a podcast with him talking about his ayahuasca experience, and it was something that he experienced that I guess was so profound in his vision of what darkness is.
Yeah.
That I'm going to do my best to represent what he was experiencing. I guess it was like he basically came into contact with like what you would consider like Satan or the devil or whatever, and it was darkness, you know, chaos, order, dark light, whatever. He came into like the being that was the void or darkness, and he confronted him like very scared at first. But when he did come close, he realized that this entity or this being or this darkness was like a hero in its own way.
Yep.
That it was holding the weight of all of the pain and all of the emptiness and all of the sadness and all of the worst things and suffering like in the entire universe in order to
give it out in small pieces
in order for creation to even exist.
Yeah.
So this like entity and
is
this
serving
this
us
darkness
in and of
is
itself.
is serving us in the way
It
that
serves the balance, man. Everything has to be.
And he's like as soon as I hit that moment, I realized that I don't fight your pain. Don't run away from your pain. Appreciate your pain and understand that it's something that is there to serve you and to help you with your creation in your life. It's not something that you need to drown out or drug out or run away from or do any of that.
Well, and even from the biblical sense, like they say, he was an angel first.
Yeah.
Because it's the paradox, right? Like you have to have both, and they have to understand and come from each other in one way.
Like they're both part of the same thing. And in order for any of our life or existence or experience to even exist, we have to have both of those things interacting and fluctuating with each other.
If we take it back to like the twin flame theory, right? Wouldn't Satan be God's twin flame?
Yeah.
So to speak.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, totally necessary. And you have to be able to be parts of both in order to be honest with yourself, because we are from creation, and creation encompasses all of it. So, but people don't want to face their darkness. And so what happens is I think that they build it into the monster that it becomes rather than the force that it is.
Yeah.
And so then it's not productive. It's just fear.
Right.
And
for
overwhelming.
Sure. Yeah. That's a hard one to hold on to sometimes. It's like when you're in the thick of it.
Yeah.
It's like, you have to kind of like reset yourself.
It's
and
easy to be scared.
Yeah.
Because you get to justify flight or fight.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a default for people that don't want to do the work. It's easy to run, and it's easy to force, and it's easy to fight back.
Right.
But it's hard to embrace and kind of surrender to what is.
Definitely. Yeah.
I mean, if you guys are both looking at me to talk, I'm going to start talking about Lord of the Rings, because
I don't know anything about Lord of the Rings, really.
I think you'll enjoy this then. So
go for it.
Tolkien created an entire fucking universe. But how it all came into being, where there were like angelic beings, and what they were doing was each one of these angelic beings had a song. And when they all sang their song together, they created
It's like
everything.
Trolls, World Tour.
They created all of creation.
Okay.
And there was one angelic being, I forget the correct term, so I'm not going to use it, but he essentially didn't like the song that was being sung.
Okay.
He didn't like it enough. So he ended up singing a discordant tune, and that was Morgoth, who eventually was like Sauron, the like main evil person in Lord of the Rings. Sauron was Morgoth's bitch.
Yeah.
Morgoth like had Sauron as his little like plaything, like go sweep up the floors and shit like that. But Morgoth actually created everything that was like dark in the world with his discordant sound. And I just thought that was kind of like a cool thing.
Yeah, that's
like,
what we talked about last time.
I think Tolkien like created a better
model,
archetypical creation universe than like the Bible or anything.
Okay,
like it makes more sense because everything's vibration and everyone's singing into the vibration in these things.
Obviously, I don't know anything about Lord of the Rings, and I'll be honest, I don't know that much about Harry Potter either. But I used to say that that was one of my arguments when we would talk about the Bible. I have a lot of respect for the Bible because I like what it represents or what it's meant to represent, and I think it's interesting from an anthropological perspective. But you know, in 400 years from now, who's to say that Harry Potter isn't the next Bible?
Yeah,
I hope so. If it could be Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, I'll be like, cool. We finally shifted into better things.
That's you just talk about Jordan Peterson. He actually talks a lot about how the Harry Potter story actually is very, very
similar,
representative archetypally of things that happen in the Bible.
And it's true, and I think it's a more practical model for today for people to connect to, because
that's why people are so about it, because it just it hits something in you.
Well, the magic, people, that's what I hate about all of this, right? People look at me and want Harry Potter, and I'm sitting here saying, oh, it's the real deal, but it's not that. But it is that, but it's not. And you have to be able to like put it together.
It's like okay, like, you know how in Harry Potter, how you have to like go through this like special like thing to get to the train station or whatever, like you have to be able to
the portal
go through that special portal, like you need to be able to like have an unlocked sense of something, or you need to be
what they need to do.
You need to be a wizard, Harry.
They need to be, no,
you know,
platforms 9 3/4 is accessible just by someone going through it. The problem is so many people just see it as a brick wall and don't give it the friggin' any attention.
That is literally the perfect metaphor for
all you have to do is just look at the wall and just walk through it like it's not there.
Yeah. And that's why I love the statement, there is no truth, only perception.
Yeah.
Because we're all manifesting completely different realities parallel to one another, and mine is no less or more true than yours.
Yeah.
But mine is probably better.
I wanted to branch off of that thought as I see we're probably getting close. So
ooh, that flew today.
With all of the like witchy stuff, I have this feeling like for people who know all of this stuff, like which plants to burn and what order to do the things,
we should
and
do
all
one of
this
those
stuff,
next time.
like,
I got you.
Those sort of things, I don't think
I might
are
need help with
necessary
something, so
in everything, especially in certain things. And obviously, I know nothing. But my thought is that each time you have like all of this knowledge, like if I use these incense and these rocks and this burned thing and this offering and in this way, each one of those individual things is like a reaffirmation of your conscious intent of this situation. Right. Like without all those things, conscious intent is still like 50, 60%
but
of
it's
it.
less powerful.
But if you have all of those things that you consciously know, like these people believed in this and this people believe, and you put all those things together, it's like an amplifier, similar to like how multiple people in connection can manifest a lot better.
Yep, it's the difference between a singular prayer and a prayer circle, and it is. I literally just posted about this yesterday on my Facebook. I am huge on the phrase "faith without works is dead." And I know that's from the Bible, but I don't give a shit. It's perfect. People want all of those things to work for them, but you need to attach a tangible intention to each thing that you do within a ritual, whether that's praying at an altar or lighting the candle at a church, right? Or me making a salt circle and, bringing out my black candles and things. I could tell you some crazy shit that I do within my own rituals to cleanse myself, and you'd be like, what the but it works for me, and that's what matters. It's amplification of my general intention, and it is solidifying an energy in a room onto something concrete to manifest it that much stronger. So you're right, you don't need any of those things, but I used to work with tarot cards a bunch, not because I needed the tarot cards, but because it allowed people that were more skeptical of me, and it allowed me to not present in a way that people misunderstand it for ego. Right. And it allowed the cards to, so to speak for me. Yeah. So I could lay them out and say, oh, see what the card said. And I actually used to use a deck that had the meaning completely written on the front of it so that they could know that I wasn't inserting my own meaning onto it. And now I don't use them anymore because I recognize that like it's a take it or leave it thing. So either you want my help or you don't. I don't need the card. So it was just an extra step for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I was really into tarot card stuff. I had a Taoism
I love
Tao
it.
Oracle deck, and I absolutely love that one. It was great,
and they're great tools sometimes. Like even me, like my energy gets a little bit untethered and I have to stand back and say, okay, I need something to support what I'm doing so that I know that I'm separating what is my like human experience to what is my spiritual experience, because I can't always do that, and things like that help, and the rituals help, right? They bring it back to center.
For sure. I think the most interesting thing is like figuring out how people even get to the spiritual in the first place. Yeah. Like how do you, because I remember like my journey to get to the position that I'm in right now and the way that I think about the universe and reality. And it's been like a decade in the making. Like I remember when I was, 18, 19 years old, like I was like cut off. Like nothing, I didn't have any real connection to, I guess, like bigger, greater ideas of God or source or the universe or any of that really. And there was, it's like, because I started out like in conspiracies, right?
Yeah.
Like about how
that makes sense for you.
Like the government is in this evil organization that's trying to control everybody and blah, blah, blah and whatnot. And that like slowly turned into the occultism stuff where I was like, what is this? Like weird, like rituals and all.
The occult is the oldest thing known to man in one form or facet or culture or another. And I am the same as you. I went through looking at everything psychological, everything spiritual, and everything religious because I was looking for me. Why is nobody talking about the things I can do? Why does this religion condemn it and this one view it this way? And none of them had a good explanation for what the hell I was doing, but I'm doing it, and I'm not doing it on purpose, and I'm not bad. So I went through this whole process of learning everything I could, full spectrum, trying to identify what the hell is going on.
That's where I was at. Like literally, I went through like many years where I did nothing but sit at home, read, watch documentaries, podcasts, anything possible that I could find that helped me understand what the hell the human experience is. More. Like I got into the whole Pleiadian thing, like the Pleiadian message, right? Like I was all about that. I listened to so much. What is that?
Have you guys heard of Seth Speaks? Real quick.
No.
Is that Law of One?
Oh my God, I'm gonna totally blank on her. So 60s or 70s, poet, a nobody ass poet. She started channeling with this being that deemed itself Seth, and her partner and her decided to write it all down. And so it's a book. I listened to it, I think like 3 times now. But I did it on YouTube because there's a bunch of audio books like there free. Check that out. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And all she did is
look into that.
It was just a being, an entity that said, you're channeling with me and I'm going to give you all of the information, basically.
Yeah, there's something on Gaia about channelers. There's like a whole thing about all these different channelers.
There's so much content here. Never enough time.
It's great. I know. We're over an hour now, so we should probably cut it. But
we're at the thing. Let's do the thing. Thank you all for joining, and thank you to our special guest, Danii.
My pleasure.
Always appreciate you rolling in here.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. You'll definitely be back again. This is going to be a regular occurrence.
Yeah, I want to know what people want to know.
Yes.
Tell me what you want me to tell you.
Anything that you have questions about in the psychic or supernatural or anything like that, we will be happy to discuss.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But until the next time, bye-bye.